All right, this is going to be a short little series that I do. I don't know that yet, but I just wanted to get my thoughts out quickly before they start running away from me. So I just finished the first standard Grand Prix, you know, four race series in Ridge Racer 5, an arcade racer for the PlayStation 2 release in 2000 was a launch title. I have never encountered an arcade racer that was able to be so simple yet capture the intensity and exhilaration of how and also the danger of how driving a car um, actually feels. Too many games uh, try to achieve the sense of realism via making car and I by the way I don't understand this at all because it's not how driving a car in real life is at all, but they always try to achieve this idea of realism by making cars that are incredibly sluggish and unresponsive and hard to drive. Very unresponsive steering, very unresponsive, pedaling, which is ironic because that's supposed to be in real life. That's supposed to be something that road cars are guilty of, whereas these sports cars and racing cars are supposed to be hyper responsive and such, and yet it seems like these fictional cars are even more sluggish than the worst of the worst in real life. So it's a very I can't even call it misguided at this point. It's just a lazy approach to it's a lazy approach to realism. You have one end, which is this approach to simulation when it comes to racing games, and then you have the other approach, which is the arcade uh, focused racing games, try to which create this false dichotomy. Both subgenres create this false dichotomy between fun and realism, where the arcade racers make every action that you take inconsequential. There are no consequences for ramming into objects. There are no consequences for driving poorly in any respect. What would and there it can be for better or for worse a lot of well, in the worst case, it can be a bloating that comes from all of these extra mechanics that would not apply in a real life context. What Ridge Racer 5 is able to do is, there's no power ups or nitrous or boosting or any of this extra stuff. I think the only major mechanic is like drafting or something, and that's about it. But it's through a very snappy, very responsive handling system and cars that feel very responsive, but through that also feel very dangerous because turning too far in one direction or another can lead you to ramming into a wall. And ramming into a wall is a very big punishment in this game because it slows you down tremendously. Right? You can pick up very fast afterwards, but you can't make too many mistakes or else it'll blow up in your face. And even drifting is something that feels like a big part of the gameplay is just getting used to the handling, which just because it's snappy and responsive doesn't mean it necessarily does what you want it to all the time, right? It's more like a balance in you adjusting. I find that it was a much better experience when I set the sensitivity of the pedals to high because the PlayStation 2 was the first to introduce with this pressure sensitive button. So you know whatever how hard you press changes how much acceleration or braking you're putting, which adds another layer of nuance to how the pedaling feels. So there's certain corners where you want to let off completely and just drift, and then there's certain where you want to not just full press on the gas, but try to hold this medium as you try to find this sort of medium, trying to balance your pedals along the way. And it's also about navigating this pack of other cars in these very narrow roads, and it's very it's very grueling, and it can get very frustrating at times, especially when you're trying to overtake somebody, but they're like kind of in your and you're trying to find this like pocket where you'll be able to pass them without them obstructing your path for whatever reason or another. And I was just impressed at how simple it is, but also how much it benefits from that simplicity, which I don't think a lot of racing games are able to do, as well as Ridge Racer does. Ridge Racer 5 specifically, which is, from what I understand, one of the less popular mainline entries. I mean, I guess it doesn't have the same, you know, iconic presentation as Ridge Racer 4 and its music and whatnot, but I also like uh, how much the art direction parallels this theme of controlling a very powerful machine. These very synthetic trance and techno sounds. This very, what do you call it? Gen X soft club um, aesthetic. I mean, in line, very much in line with that of the PlayStation 2 itself, and it fits the theme, this underlying theme of the actual gameplay as well, which I think makes it stand out in its own way, especially in retrospect. But yeah, this is a bit of a ramble. I just wanted to get these thoughts out as quickly as I could. I maybe wish I could have done this maybe just a few minutes right here, because I can see I'm losing my thoughts a little bit. But yeah, that's all. Ridge Racer, pretty underrated series. Hope it makes a new entry. I mean, oh yeah, yeah. And I can also see why some people don't really like how later editions include things like, nitrous and all these other ancillary mechanics that kind of take away from the purity of its original design and its identity before that point. But yeah, cool shit.